Hi, good evening, everyone. I call the Tuesday, August 29th, 2023 Peninsula School District Board of Directors meeting to order. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item 3 is the approval of the agenda. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Yeah, I would like to call for a change to the agenda.
Okay.
I would like to request that we add an executive session at the end of the meeting to discuss the performance of a district employee.
Okay. Any further discussion? So we'll add that at the end of the meeting. So we'll take a we'll take a recess for executive session.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the revised agenda?
I move to approve the revised agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
We'll go with Lori. Heard it first. It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Lori. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. The revised agenda is approved. My favorite part. So moving on to item 4, we have our student school board representative. So this is the first official meeting with our 23-24 school board reps. We have all 3 schools represented here tonight. So I'm so excited to welcome you. What I would like for you to do before you give your reports is maybe just go down the line and introduce yourselves and the schools that you represent, and then we would be so happy to hear your reports. Yeah, go ahead. Speak into the mic, though, because that's what takes up on camera.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm a school board representative for Henderson, representing Henderson Bay High School, and I'm a senior. Yeah.
All right, we'll get back to you for your report. We'll just go down and introduce.
Hi. Hi, I'm Alex Dawson. I am the Peninsula High School rep, the senior rep.
Hi, I'm Adam Massery. I'm the junior school board rep for Peninsula High School.
I'm Logan Toms. I'm the junior representative for Gig Harbor High School.
Hi, I'm Ethan Schuett, and I'm the senior representative for Gig Harbor High School.
Thank you for pronouncing your last name. Okay, I promise. All right, who's going to start? Anyone order? Sarah, would you like to start? All right, go for it. Let's see what's going on.
Okay. I'd like to start with Pioneer Elementary actually first. Pioneer, this one's actually my favorite that I heard from them. Pioneer has been able to partner with Peninsula Youth Orchestra and their volunteer parent organization to offer violin lessons twice a week. This year it is offered to up to 30 students in 3rd through 5th grade, and they currently have 28 students enrolled in that, and yesterday was their very first day of it, and they'll get to perform at their Veterans Day Assembly in November. They also had an overhaul of their parent drop-off and pickup routines, which is going very smoothly in their 3rd week. And last year, they had many things that were very new to them as a new community, but this year they say that it feels like they've been doing it for years. So that is really awesome for them. And then for Henderson Bay, for Food Bowl, this year we had 4,007 items donated by Henderson Bay, and it was very big for our school, and we had 31 items per student, which was a lot for us, especially because our school is really tiny, but it was really awesome. We were a bit disappointed about not being able to win overall this year, but we still had an amazing turnout of donations, and we were really glad to know how much food was donated from Food Bowl this year. So we count that as a win. We are also starting to donate food year-round in our school, and we are counting our items before they get donated once a month, every month. So starting with this month of December, that is 4,007 items. We also have a lot of great new students at Henderson with a lot of potential. Most of them are very friendly, and a lot of them have so many great ideas. And within these few weeks, we've been looking at our expectations in school, such as what it means to show the Bay Way, which is showing excellence, being empowered and empathetic. And we have also talked about how the back door in the school is not an entrance or an exit for anybody, especially for safety, and that everyone has to go through the main door. So we've been talking about a bunch of our school policies as well. And our leadership class has decided to have an Awesome Spirit Week on the month in October, the week between Gig Harbor and Peninsula's homecoming dances, which I believe is the 9th through the 14th. Yeah. And then we also have the concern, our lunch lady has stated the concern that we are not getting enough students buying lunches from school, which is causing the talk about the district around the district that there's a chance that there might not be might not be able to afford the kitchen open for the students that are getting lunches, which is not super great. It's because there are a lot of students getting food, but it is what Lynn told me is that there's just not enough. But because of this, she has also sent out a form for us to fill out, which we did last week. That was preferences that we might want to see in school lunches at our school, and also we're adding a la carte so we can have, and she asked for preferences as that, such as chips, granola bars, cookies, muffins, anything like that. So yeah.
All right, what's going on at Peninsula High School? Not a lot yet. Start of the year, so I think it's the second week of school? Third? Already flying by. Senior year is already going away. Well, before school started, we had SEOC 101, and we had about 350 students in attendance, which was crazy because that's not even the whole class. There's a ton of freshmen this year, and we're excited to have them here. We're excited to be getting new Seahawks and new spirit, so it's looking good. So yeah. Food Bowl went really well. I think Peninsula donated 22,000 items. Gig Harbor got 17,000 items, and Henderson Bay got 4,000 items, which is amazing. All three schools did so well in raising food. It was a record high of food items that Food Bowl has ever raised, which was 44,284 items. So that's really crazy, and I'm really proud of our community for coming together and raising that much. And one other thing about Food Bowl is we recognize that we thought we'd give Henderson Bay a little bit better of a representation because they're doing a lot for their school and they're donating a lot of food items. So we are meeting up with them sometime later in October to talk with them to figure out a way we can better represent their school and the amount of food they're donating, because it's really awesome what they're doing over there. So Fish Bowl, it was a great game, very fun to watch. Sadly, Peninsula lost, but that happens. The streak has died. Finally, which is sad, but great game to watch. Gig Harbor did very well. I wanted to give a shout out to our Peninsula student section, who had a ton of great leaders, making sure that we kept the chance focused on our team and clean. And everybody was just super enthusiastic about our team, supporting our team and stuff like that. And a lot of that came from when we had a sportsmanship summit on the second day of school, where we talked about just how to cheer for your team and like being a good sport during events and stuff like that. So as well, we also had like during our assembly on Friday, we talked about sportsmanship and like how to be a good sport for the other team. So yeah. And it was a great game. It was a little disappointing at the end to see some of the actions displayed by some of the adults and students at the game, but that happens sometimes. But it was a great game, so yeah. Homecoming's coming up October 7th. Our theme is time travel, so we're really excited about it. The seniors are doing the prehistoric era. I really wanted to do dinosaurs. That's like most of the basis of it. The juniors are doing the Roaring 20s. The sophomores are doing the future, and the freshmen are doing medieval. So it's really exciting. I think they're all going to turn out great. And the actual like whole event's being branded as the Eras Tour. So it's like a play on the Taylor Swift thing, and we got some super cool looking tickets too. So yeah. So that's really exciting. We have like Spirit Week planned up for that, so that's exciting. The College and Career Fair is coming up too, October 2nd. Just to explore different colleges and careers that students might be interested in. And it's really cool this year. We have it at the YMCA with all schools. It's the first year that we have all the schools combined in one career fair, so that's really cool. We have Club Rush coming up. It's an event we do at our school to recognize some of the clubs and show off some new clubs at our school. We actually had like 3 or 4 new clubs show up last year because of this event. We have like a new chess club at our school and some other stuff. And also just highlights the clubs that are currently at our school to kind of show off and get more people involved in clubs at our school. One of the issues I've noticed already, the parking space hasn't been bad. In J-Lot, the security has been an issue though. Already someone's car has gotten damaged and they couldn't really figure out who it was because one of the cameras is like all fuzzy or something. And then someone's car got stolen from the school lot the other day. J-Lot is the one by the tennis courts. Yeah. So it's a little worrying about that, but otherwise like the space has been fine, I think. So we don't have problems with that usually until later in the year. So yeah. And then we start out fall sports at the beginning of the year. I think they're all doing well so far. You know, everybody, lots of participation. Everyone's having a lot of fun time. So yeah, it's fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great weather.
So what we got going on at Gig Harbor High School, the first kind of major change that we've seen from last year going to this year was the new cell phone policy, which, to summarize it briefly, basically means that phones aren't being allowed in class and teachers have the ability to, I believe, send in warnings to the admin so they can later follow up and take the phones away. This, has seen some blowback by students, but I think in personally what I've seen, it's been a major plus and students are appearing to be a lot more engaged, and it's been a really great change to our school. Secondly, we got on September 20th, it looks like Gig Harbor is doing a senior meeting from 5:30 to 6:15, and this is giving them an opportunity for students to meet with their teachers, counselors, and admins to kind of figure out how the senior year will operate and what their future goals will look like. As my other reps have mentioned, we've had a food bowl, which was a massive success across the district with 44,000 total food items being donated, which is just really great to see our community engagement continuing and supporting these different causes. The last thing I'll go over is another change that we've seen from last year with our Tides Time program, which is now known as Homeroom. And basically it's a weekly program which last year was exclusively focused on social emotional learning. However, this year there was kind of a change to be split up between study hall, like different group activities, and in addition to that, the social emotional learning. And it's kind of given teachers more ability to actually do with their class what they see fit, and it's been a popular change among the students how have been asking for time to do study hall and just kind of be able to work on what they need to at some points.
And now we'll be talking about Gig Harbor sports. First, our incredible student athletes came together for a remarkable sportsmanship summit on Wednesday, September 6th. We had the privilege of hearing from two inspirational speakers, Rob Miller and Proactive Coaching, and Mick Hoffman, Executive Director of WIAA. They shared their wisdom and insights on culture and sportsmanship as a district. First, the Fishbowl was just on this last Friday when Gig Harbor came out with a close win 21-20, which makes their record 2-1 for the season, with another home game against Capital this Friday. Girls soccer is also doing really well, as the girls came off 3 big wins against River Ridge, Central Kitsap, and Timberline, but ended up with a tie on their last game, making their record in total 3-0-1, with another game on the road at Capital. Girls volleyball team is going 3-1 with their next game being at River Ridge. Boys varsity tennis is currently 5-1 in our conference, and our next match is going to be against Peninsula High School. And next for our drama, which auditions for Gig Harbor High School's Alice in the Wonderland started on the 11th of September. The final show will be shown on October 27th, 28th, and November 3rd and 4th.
Just like, when's Tide Fest?
December.
It's in December, right?
First weekend of December.
Okay, thanks. And the other question for Alex, did you get Taylor's permission to call it Eris?
I have a question about study hall. So in your homeroom, during the study hall time, are you able to go visit different teachers? Or are you study hall in your own homeroom?
I think that kind of depends on the class, but from what my teacher's been saying, like, it's a great time to go see your other teachers and kind of organize what you need to do, whether that be like with individual assignments or going to your counselor. So I think that is going to be an option on those study hall days.
Perfect. That's great. Any other questions for students? Thank you, guys. Welcome. Excellent first job on your reports. That's outstanding. All right. Okay, item 5 on our agenda is comments from the community. So in accordance with Board Policy 1400, we're pleased to offer an opportunity to hear public comment. We welcome all of you who have joined us to speak. I will call speakers one at a time to address the board from the podium. So when you come up, please state your first and last name for the record. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Do we have a timer, Katie, this evening? Okay, so we'll have a 3-minute timer that'll kind of help keep us in adherence to that limit. For those who are unable to speak in person, or if you do go over time and are cut off at 3 minutes, please remember that you can always email your comments to the board, and that will be included as part of the public record. In the spirit of respectful and constructive discourse, we request that your comments remain focused on items of public interest and refrain from being personally directive, abusive, slanderous, or libelous in nature. We value your perspectives and input, and your feedback is crucial to shaping our school community. And lastly, we ask for your cooperation in maintaining a respectful atmosphere during this meeting. Please refrain from cheering or booing to ensure that everyone can express their opinions freely and without interruption. So I will call you one at a time up to the podium. Please, like I said, state your first and last name. And we'll start this evening with Diane Nelson.
Hello, my name is Diane Nelson, and actually I just wanted to give a welcome back speech tonight, especially welcome back school board and welcome back student reps. We're so glad to have you back. And from Blessing Group, the little bags of caramels and apples are just to kick off your new school year. I just want to remind everyone about the Blessing Group, and our mission statement again is to be the hands and feet of Jesus, caring for students and staff. We love our students, we love our staff, and we just want to be able to promote positive happenings in our school district. And the little bags you got were kind of like just a sample. We're really excited this year. We started taking baskets of just snacks and treats and writing hand letter notes of encouragement to all the schools, but it took us a while to build up to where we had enough to be able to do all 17. And I'm so happy to report back that this year we've made it, and now every single school in our district is getting them all the 6 months we're doing them. So I'm just really excited to be able to do that. And I'm looking forward to continue working. This is not part of Blessing Group, but I just got to say this because being a retired teacher, I love volunteering at schools. And I'm so glad that I get to keep volunteering in Ardendale. Last year I was doing reading groups. This year I'm doing math groups. So I'm really looking forward to that. And just welcome back, everyone.
Thank you. Next up, we have Doug Erner. And then after Doug Erner will be Sarah Garrett.
See if I can make peace with this thing. That's a little better. Hi, my name is Doug Erner, and I want to start off by saying that I think Board Policy 3211P is a solid start at creating an environment where all students can expect to be safe, respected, and welcome. When I first read it through the lens of how the district is supporting trans and gender expressive students, I thought it was a policy that would make me proud to work in the district. Unfortunately, as written, the policy can also be read through the lens of how to push trans and gender expansive students back into the closet and how to hobble teachers in their efforts to get to know their students. Sadly, that reading seems to be the one chosen by the Gig Harbor High School leadership. During the start of school PD, teachers were told that they were not allowed to survey their students for preferred names and pronouns. By itself, that's probably a good thing, because students who are in the closet or who aren't really sure where they stand with their exploration of their gender probably don't want to have to answer that question on the first day. But as teachers at Gig Harbor tried to explore what they could do instead, they were told they couldn't privately ask the students even to share if they wanted to, or even to tell the students that they would be open to knowing if the students used pronouns that weren't the ones in Skyward or the ones in the student information system. And and that means the students probably some students don't even have a way of knowing that policy 3211P exists and that they have a right to have their preferred name and pronouns used. I think this is out of step with the intent of the board policy and with state law, and that it creates an environment at Gig Harbor High School that fails all students. Every student will need to navigate the use of pronouns at work and in their social lives, and to deny students the opportunity to practice those skills is doing them a great disservice. Teachers are some of the first people with whom LGBTQ+ students will choose to share their identities. Counselors are often overloaded and have little time to get to know their students. At many schools, the administrators are unknown to students. Some of the schools I've worked at, it's kind of funny to see who the students think the principal actually is. And some administrators are openly hostile to LGBTQ students. It's critical that teachers have the ability to create spaces where all of their students, whether conservative or liberal, gay or straight, feel safe, respected, and welcome. Without this, it's difficult to learn and to share ideas. And when that happens, school becomes irrelevant, and an opportunity to build and strengthen our communities is lost.
Mr. Erner, your time is up, but please submit the rest of your comments by email if you would. Thank you. Sarah Garrett, and then after Ms. Garrett will be Michael Perot.
I'm not quite that tall. Yeah. Back down there for me. Okay, get organized here. My name is Sarah Garrett. In 2004, Congress passed a provision that, quote, every school and college that receives federal money must teach about the Constitution on September 17th, the day the document was adopted in 1787, end quote. The revised Code of Washington 28A.230.170 states, quote, the study of the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Washington shall be a condition and prerequisite to graduation from the public and private schools in the state. The Superintendent of Public Instruction shall provide by rule the implementation of this section, end quote. This last month, our Moms for Liberty Pierce County chapter received 9,600 U.S. Constitutions and Declaration of Independence booklets from the 917 Society by way of a very generous donation to be given out to every 8th grade history student in our county. The 917 Society is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated solely to promoting the United States Constitution and getting it into the hands of our youth. As our chapter members reached out to all 15 Pierce County school districts, we have been met with overwhelming support and gratitude from nearly every district. To my knowledge, all 15 districts have accepted and distributed these booklets in commemoration of Constitution Day, except one, Peninsula School District. This district is the only district in Pierce County who has rejected distributing the United States Constitution to our 8th grade students. Why? Allegedly because of the 917 Society logo. The United States Constitution is absolutely approved curriculum. Here is a handout given to our 6th and 8th grade students from the approved middle school flash curriculum. Listed on this handout are no less than 4 national nonprofits. Why is the Peninsula School District discriminating between the national nonprofits PlannedParenthood.org, NotTooLate.com, SexEtc.org, and ProChoice.org? They are, and quote, confidential abortion services. Why are these a priority for our middle school 11 to 15-year-old children over the United States Constitution and the 917 Society? With no personal animus for any of you, I submit that you have made a wrong decision regarding the distribution of the United States Constitution. I'm asking you to reconsider. When each of you were sworn into office, you took an oath according to RCW 28A 343-360, which states that, quote, every person elected or appointed to the office of school director before entering upon the discharge of duties thereof shall take an oath of affirmation to support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Washington. I ask you, by rejecting the United States Constitution given free of charge for our children, are you upholding that oath? Please reconsider your position. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Perot, and after Mr. Perot is Patty Lee.
Thank you. Michael Perot. I'm here to talk about agenda item 8.2, which is the course design, selection, and adoption of instructional materials policy 2020. It's a good idea that this is being taken up now, particularly in light of what I've experienced in the last couple of years, and that's the lack of a clear and transparent process for adopting curriculum and materials or finding out information about them. Unfortunately, other than the core materials, which go through you folks, which is a more open process because you're our elected officials, the supplemental materials and all the other categories related don't have that same, are not proposed under this to have that same transparent process. Rather, it's deferred to the superintendent, who will, because she can't do everything, will defer to her staff, which we've seen what has happened in this district when it comes to literacy when we defer to bureaucrats who have not moved the needle on literacy in years. I mean, just last year, reading scores did go up. They went up from 65.2% to 65.3%. That's less than 10 students moving up. So things aren't working. And now this proposal lacks staff, parent, or community involvement. And certainly there is the Instructional Advisory Committee, IAC, that is backed up in 2020P, the policy. But that thing's been mothballed for years and only surfaces periodically when there's one thing or another that comes up, sort of a transactional basis. So what is needed is for transparency and for it to be a clear and transparent process how things come out. I mean, nothing's better right now to consider than the Seeing Stars program, supplementary reading curriculum for elementary students. Where'd that come from? Well, one guy says it was 2017, before I got here, it was adopted for one student. Another person says, well, and then we didn't use it for a while, but then we started using it again because it was on the shelf. Well, why'd you use it? Well, because it was there. Who decided that? And it's a bunch of pointing in two directions. So it's good that this is being brought up, but it needs to be a clear and transparent process. And further, putting all of the curriculums and materials that are approved online with what that program is, a link to the publisher. Then you can have when it was adopted, the process that it went through, the intended, the target market for the students, so that parents can go out and see what is available instead of, in our case, having to do public records requests and play that game to get what we want to know is available for our child. And well, you saw the decision. It was disappointing. So glad to take this up, but please table it and look in a different direction. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Patty Lee, and after Ms. Lee is Carol Rivera.
My name is Patty Lee, a retired teacher of over 50 years and a resident of Gig Harbor. I've written a poem that I'd like to share from the perspective of an elder in this profession. Written in April of this year. To those who would ban the books of memoirists, poets, and Nobel Prize winners. Who are you to take away the teachers, to prohibit their words from reaching me, to decide which parts of history I cannot bear to see? What master do you bow to who deems what works belong, prohibiting my discernment from knowing right from wrong? Do you think I'll be safer? Do you suppose it will be pure to prescribe what I can know about and which truths I must not endure? Why ban the stories of Maya, Rosa, Alexei, and J.K. from the intelligence of students seeking to find their own way? Such works have been my lifeline in realizing that I belong, that our history's rich and fertile when we hear each other's songs. These are not your lessons to dictate nor dole out. These are the lives we're living, ours to sing and write about. We need to know that others struggle, that magic happens all the time, that if you switch the name and stories, what has been yours is mine. We're all amazing members of this species, humankind, who need the truths from every corner, not the rule of narrow mind. We need all of our perspectives without battles to win or lose, freedom to hear from one another. Let's let the teachers, librarians, and students choose. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Rivera, and after Ms. Rivera is Jennifer Dingman.
My name is Carol Rivera. I'm the Peninsula Education Association president. I have two items that I wanted to discuss today relating to board policy and connected to some of the things that transpire at board meetings. The first one is about Policy Revision 2020, course design, selection, and adoption of instruction. I just wanted to make sure that the board also understands that we have collective bargaining agreement language that every policy actually needs to be vetted through if it has a potential impact to be different than what is published. Just on a quick view of that, it seems to me that there might be a couple areas that we might need to make sure are in compliance with our CBA. And also, just as we're talking, there are situations and other things where we have classes that don't have adopted curriculum, and teachers need to find resources in order to run the class, or also to support student agency and their ideas in exploring those things. So would you like you to consider that as you revise that policy? The second one is really a discussion about an informed lens as we're developing board policies. I wanted to bring attention just to make sure that they not only support the strategic plan and the culture of belonging, but also the state law, especially regarding equity, diversity, and inclusion. I wanted to go ahead and just read, I don't know if I have enough time, but I wanted to bring back reference to resolution number 2128 that was passed by the board in 2021. It is regarding state mandated training for staff and board directors. Whereas the Washington State Legislature passed Senate Bill 5044 in 2021, which requires all school staff and school directors to participate in professional learning concerning equity, cultural competency, and dismantling institutional racism in the public school system. Whereas the Board of Directors in Peninsula School District takes its obligations and responsibilities to abide by applicable laws relating to professional training seriously and will uphold the legal requirements set forth within the bill. I read those sections of that just because the policies that we pass need to be informed with a range of understanding of those issues. That way there isn't ambiguous interpretations of the policies that you create. One of the bigger pieces is just that the district in this resolution has been devoted to fostering an environment that is inclusive and continuously works to model and create an environment free of discrimination. All students, teachers, and support staff are equal as individuals, and no one race, gender, ethnicity, or religion is superior or inferior as it relates to another. And no student, teacher, or support staff member should be taught that they are an oppressor or a victim based on their race. I think that the district continues to talk about discrimination and that it is strictly prohibited. So if you wanted to revise and reread that resolution, I think it supports much of what has been said today already. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jennifer Dingman, and after Ms. Dingman is Dr. Ann, I'm going to say it wrong again. I'm sorry. Junod?
Perfect.
Okay, got it.
First of all, I wanted to thank Principal Suter and Principal Benoit, and I apologize if I said his name wrong, for postponing the JV and C team football games this last Monday. While that decision and the last few days have broke my heart, I completely understand the decision, and I am thankful that they understood having those games on Monday was not safe. While I am in the minority for agreeing with this, I am in the majority when I say we do not believe the game will be rescheduled. The JV team has had a difficult start this year. An opposing coach recently referred to them as not a real football team. That is how they've been treated. All sub-varsity players have worked amazingly hard over the last year. They are all worthy of a chance to play all scheduled games, of not having to worry if there will be transportation to a game or if it will be on time. They are worthy of better treatments by this administration. Please do not fail my son or the teammates again. We are amazingly worried that the game on Monday will not happen because of transportation.
Thank you. And our final speaker will be Dr. Ann Junod.
Hi. So the largest teachers union in the country, the National Education Association, in July affirmed and recommended that teachers ask students of all ages for their preferred names and their preferred pronouns to create a supportive and inclusive environment for all children, especially LGBTQ+ kids who are often among the most vulnerable. This is a simple and powerful gesture signaling that all kids are safe and welcome. It doesn't need to be prescriptive or required. It can and should be optional for children to share this information. But to stand in the way of educators who should be among our kids' most trusted adults from creating this safe and welcoming environment risks alienating and isolating kids when they're in need of greatest support. It's a privilege to not have to worry about which pronoun someone is going to use for you based upon how they perceive your gender. And we know we can't always discern what someone's pronouns are by looking at them. Asking and correctly using someone's pronouns is one of the most basic ways to show respect for others and treat them with dignity. Creating welcoming, accommodating spaces for non-majority populations also benefits everyone. For example, we know that ADA sidewalks with adequate grading and accessible curbs not only help people that use wheelchairs, they also help parents with strollers, bicyclists, rollerbladers, as well as both very old and very young pedestrians walk more safely and easily. In a similar way, supporting the kids in our schools who will benefit most significantly from creating environments of inclusivity will benefit all students by creating environments where all children are safe and welcome. Thank you.
Okay, item 5 is the consent agenda. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by David and seconded by Jennifer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. The consent agenda has been approved. Item 6 this evening, we have a couple of reports, starting with our start of the year review, item 6.1, sorry. So I would like to invite John Yellowlees up to the podium to, our Chief Academic Officer, to discuss that. Thank you. And Natalie Boyle.
Good evening, Board of Directors and Superintendent Barr. Thank you for having us this evening. Thank you, Katie. If you could go to the if you could go to the next slide, please. Oh, do I have the ability to do that? Okay, great. So thank you again for having us this evening. We'd like to cover 3 primary things with you today, and our objectives are to review our K through 12 assessment data from 2022-23 school year. I'm going to talk a little bit about our school and district improvement plan process this year. It looks a little different than it has in the past, and then we want to share some secondary acceleration opportunities with you. So Natalie Boyle, our Director of Elementary Teaching and Learning, is here tonight. We were planning on presenting with James Cantonwine, our Secondary Director. He's unable to be here, so we're hoping to do our best to fill his shoes this evening. And we're going to start with elementary.
Thank you for having us here this evening. We are excited to share some data as it aligns with our strategic plan. Our strategic plan is mostly focused on the Smarter Balanced assessment, but as you know, and we've shared over the course of last year, we have been doing a lot of strategic and intensive support for teachers around supporting early literacy. So we wanted to also take this opportunity to share some scores. Since Smarter Balance isn't started until 3rd grade, we wanted to provide some opportunities to give some primary grade data. What you're seeing on your score is our DIBELS scores. And for those of you who aren't aware, we use DIBELS assessments. They're short 1-minute fluency assessments that are used in grades K through 5. DIBELS is used as a universal screener, benchmark assessments throughout the school year, and then progress monitoring for individual students that need that more intensive support. So what you can see in this slide is our current DIBELS scores as compared to the spring 2022 DIBELS scores. So in the parentheses, you can see in each one of those areas if our scores went down or up as compared to 2022. Those different categories, this is language that we receive from DIBELS. So intensive means that students that are scoring in this intensive support need that intensive strategic support in order to meet that core expectation for where they are in the point of the year that they are in at that grade level. Strategic means that they're almost there, but they need some strategic and support in very specific areas in order to meet core and benchmark. Core or benchmark are students that are meeting the grade level expectations for that point in the year, as well as students that are above in that area. So as you can see, a couple of celebrations here. Number 1, in intensive and strategic, we have fewer students in each one of those areas than we did in the spring of 2022. And then for core benchmark, we are seeing that we are having more students in each of those grade levels that are scoring in those areas. A big shout out to our kindergarten teachers who have really been, they are on this is the beginning of year 3 for their use of ECRI. And so they're becoming more comfortable with it. It's becoming more natural for them. They are seeing the value and the success of using that strategic and intensive instructional model to help support students learn to read. So Just a quick data point on that, even though it's not part of our strategic plan metrics, just to celebrate the hard work of teachers. The next one is aligned with our strategic plan, and these are the Smarter Balanced Assessment scores for students in grades 3 through 5 across the district. As you saw on the last slide, we're comparing those scores to the 2022 SBA scores. And so you'll see in this first column, you'll see our ELA scores, the change of whether that is a higher score than the students in 3rd grade in 2022 scored, or that score went down. And then in math, those scores. We could go in, dig into the data, do a lot of comparisons, and we'll have all this data on our dashboard within the PSD strategic plan dashboard. 4th grade ELA, this is obviously, we're down 3.1%. That's an area that we want to dig into a little bit. That is our cohort of students that started kindergarten with a normal year and went home in March. And then started their 1st grade year in a little bit of a different environment than we were used to, and didn't really have a typical normal school year until their 3rd grade year. One celebration is 3rd grade math. Our scores are up a little bit in that area. And so, you know, all of these scores are not just that individual teacher, but it's scores and work that have been done for the previous year's teachers as well. So digging in, finding out what we can do to help foster that in continuing grades. And then John will take the secondary piece.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. So secondary, again, this is strategic plan data, and I believe all of this data is live on the website now in the strategic plan section, so you can go there and dig into the data more and disaggregate by school and by various student groups. So as you can see here, Smarter Balance, we're comparing again to 2022. These are spring scores from 2023. And as you can see, we've got some growth in a positive direction there with our 6th grade ELA and math, growing by 10.9% in ELA and 5.8% in math. Some mixed results there at 7th grade, not trending in the direction we'd like to see in terms of growth. We've got some negative numbers there in both ELA and math. 8th grade, again, trending positively with some small growth there with ELA and some more significant growth with math. And again, 10th grade data, as you can see, not trending in the direction we'd like to see with negative growth there in both ELA and math. So again, that's information we're digging into more, information that is on our strategic plan website, and you can go there and disaggregate by school, by grade level, by various student subgroups also. The next secondary, next secondary data point we have here is graduation rate. So again, we have some changes here in the direction we'd like to see in terms of overall growth as a district of 4.7%, but as you can see, there's growth consistently across our 3 high schools, with Gig Harbor growing by 1.2% to 94.3%. Henderson Bay made some tremendous growth last year and hit a graduation rate of 83.7, so they increased by 43%, which is very significant. And also Peninsula High School jumped up to 93%, an increase of 7%. So some encouraging numbers there. As a district, we're at 90.9%. I know that if James were here, he'd tell you that there are still some outstanding students that we're working with just to apply additional waivers that might be available. And that might bump up to 91% as we work with those few students that are still outstanding. So some positive growth there. James would share that this is the best data we've had around graduation for many years. So still room for growth, but happy about those results. Next, we have some information on our strategic plan process. So this year, we're trying to be more systemic and consistent with how we approach school improvement plans. So as you can see here, I just have a picture of a template, and what you will notice is that all 17 of our schools are using a similar template this year. They will all look the same. At the elementary and middle level, all schools will have goals in ELA, in math, and in sense of belonging. At the high school level, all schools will have goals in ELA, math, graduation rate, and sense of belonging. So you'll see that consistently across these plans as they're presented next month by schools. Goals are built in a manner in which we're 1 year into the strategic plan, we have 4 years left. So looking ahead 4 years from now, we hope to be at 100% proficiency. So goals have been built with incremental growth for the end of this year, and as we would hope to over the next 4 years to reach that 100% benchmark. What schools, building leadership teams, and staff have been doing is working on short-term objectives. So they've been, over the last several weeks, based on their goal, coming up with some short-term data cycles, about 6-week cycles, and they're putting plans in place, activities in place, monitoring progress on a more frequent basis toward that goal that they hope to achieve at the end of the school year. So I'm sure you'll hear a little bit about that as schools present, elementary and secondary schools at the board meetings next month. And those plans, I believe, now are live. You should be able to access those on the website, and I think we included the link in the supporting documents for today's presentation. New this year also is a district improvement plan. So this looks very similar to the school improvement plans, and this was created by all of our departments at ESC. So we have goals, multiple goals in the 5 goal areas of the strategic plan, and these goals are based on long-term, over the course of the school year, what we hope to accomplish in support of schools and their school improvement plans. And you will notice also in the district improvement plan that we have some short-term objectives, and we'll continually go back to this and look at our progress and make adjustments over the course of the school year. So again, there's goals in the area of community engagement, financial management, learning environment, academic excellence, and each of the 5 areas of the strategic plan. And next we have a slide on and some information to share regarding acceleration opportunities.
Just a really quick highlight. The majority of this information was included on a handout for you that goes into a little bit more detail, especially at the middle and high school level. So as far as acceleration opportunities, we do have cluster classrooms within our elementary schools where students are grouped together and teachers have extra support, training, and resources to help support all students. We do have PACE classrooms at Discovery, Purdy, and Voyager. We have 3-3 PACE classrooms across our elementary schools in Discovery, Purdy, Voyager, and 4-5 classrooms. At middle school, there are a variety of different ways to have some acceleration. There are opportunities for students to earn high school credits in middle school in the areas of algebra and geometry, as well as Spanish. And then there's some information about what percentage of students are taking in those courses in your handout. And then in high school, there's 3 real main popular ways to have some acceleration opportunities. Those include our expanding offerings of college in the high school, and we have partnerships with several universities to provide college and the high school courses in a variety of content areas. You can see the ones listed for Central Washington and University of Washington within your board handout. We also have advanced placement classroom or opportunities, or AP, and depending on the scores that the students take, or the test the student takes at the end of that AP class determines their credit and what they get for going on to college. And then CTE has a couple of dual credit opportunities. And so there are credits from a range of 2-year colleges in the region, including Bates, Clover Park, and Pierce College. And nearly a third of our CTE offerings offer dual credit.
Natalie, you're talking about a handout.
Yep.
It's in an email that was to us. We all have an attachment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I think we are ready for questions.
Who wants to start?
I'll go first.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. First, thank you for filling in for James, and thank you for your presentation. So first off, on the slide 3 with K2, I appreciate you giving us that data. That's our pre-COVID cohort of kids that are coming in, so it's nice to see where they are because they weren't in the school system before that happened, and I'm very pleased to see where those scores are. I think we all assumed that the scores for the 4th and 5th graders were going to take a bit of a dip when we were discussing this last year, so I don't think it's you know, it's unfortunate to see those numbers, but I knew we were going to see, and we discussed that, we were going to see that. You know, one of my questions was, what are we going to do to, what's the plan to catch up? And I know you touched briefly on that just now, but I wouldn't mind knowing what the plan is to catch those kids back up from that loss of learning during COVID. And I'm just going to, you can touch on them all at once or at the end. Grade 10 on the next slide. I was definitely disappointed to see we had such a huge dip in reading in grade 10, because I would have thought we would have continued to see progress year over year through middle school and into high school. I was expecting, we usually see a bit of a dip in 9th and 10th grade math because they're coming out of that middle school math and into something more rigid in high school. So so I'm a little disappointed to see that reading score for 10th grade. Very thrilled to see 91%. I know we won 100, but compared to where we were 10 years ago, that's great progress. I expressed disappointment last year in the SIP plans that the schools weren't all the same. So I appreciate that the SIP plan this year is going to be, everyone's going to have the same plan. But I also expressed disappointment that some of the schools came with data on ELA, some that came with data on literacy and reading, some with math. OSPI asked for data on 3 core areas: math, literacy or reading, and science. And once again, there's no data on science, just SEL. And so I don't know why, even though SEL might be important, it's not required data from the school district from OSPI. So why is that not one of the 3 mandatory SIP requirements? So, and the last thing is, based on the literacy task force outbrief, what is the plan? This is based on the spring data from 2023, post-literacy task force. What's the plan to improve literacy going forward? So that's a lot, but have at it.
Okay. Yeah, do you?
I'll just read some more of your staff up
there too. Let's just start with
right.
What's the plan to catch up, and post-literacy task force, is that going to be part of the plan to help catch those kids up?
Yes, and if Natalie doesn't mind, I'll let her speak to that, the elementary piece.
Okay, so I will tackle some of your questions about elementary first. So one of your first question was about how to catch up students that are in our intermediate grades that are not making progress like our primary grades are. Right. So our teachers starting this week are doing that process of doing that initial screening of their students. SBA scores in the past used to give us data that we could go in and drill down into that data to see exactly where students miss the mark, where we need to support. We now rely on our screener assessments, and that's DIBELS assessments for K through 5. We're also doing iReady assessments. So our teachers are busy collecting all of that data from students right now. And then based on that need and where students are within the strategic support or intensive support or core, then the students or the teachers have a tool to help kind of guide that work based on our district adopted curriculum, following fidelity to some of those resources, giving that tiered level of support through our multi-tiered systems of support to make sure that students are making progress. And part of that is progress monitoring. So if the intervention is not working, what can we do to change the intervention, to use a different resource to meet that need, to ensure that our students keep on making that progress. But as you know, and I have a 5th grader myself who was a cohort of a COVID kid, that has to make more progress than we would typically expect in order to keep them on track for that 100% and being successful for graduation. As far as the next, or how our work of the task force then goes to help support students, that's a multifaceted answer and different steps that we are taking. From the task force, we created literacy guiding principles, and those are steps that we want to ensure K through 12 are being taken for all students, knowing that not every student is going to benefit from our intensive strategic instruction in K2. There are students who are further into our system that are still not making adequate process. So the guiding principle, or the guiding principles, laid out very specific keys about where we want to see our teachers focusing their energy on. So around the science of reading, around literacy practices and resources that are research and evidence-based, and so we're working with teachers and getting that resource out there. I know that Lisa and James are talking about different supports that we can provide to our secondary students in middle school and high school about getting some additional support in order to meet those grade level standards and be successful. And then also we are working as a team to create an advisory of parents of dyslexic students so that we can hear their stories, hear from students and impact, and really look at our system to see how we can support a system where all students can be successful and included in instruction.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to
add?
add?
I like cohorts. I think everybody knows I like tracking that. So I'm just hopeful that based on all the work that y'all did with Jennifer and that task force and all in that group, that this 6, 7, 8 cohort will look at it a year from now, 7, 8, they'll all make improvement. So hopefully that will work. So that's
Can
what
I
I'm gonna
add
be
one
looking
more
for.
thing that I forgot to add? There's multiple facets of our work with literacy. Another thing that came from our task force was truly good, amazing professional learning for teachers, and how impactful. We could have the best curriculum in the world, but if teachers don't understand the why behind following a curriculum and the strategic and that implementation of that with fidelity, then it's for nothing. So we do have 80 teachers that are working through the LETRS professional learning. It's not a curriculum. It's about understanding the science of reading, about what effective instructional practice, and it can be used utilizing our district adopted resources. So we have a cohort of 80 teachers that have already started their journey. A lot of the work is asynchronous and online, but they will be coming together, all 80 teachers, on October 9th for our next professional learning day with trainers to work through that professional learning. K2 teachers were prioritized as that 80, but there were enough spots available that we do have up to 5th grade teachers that are engaging in that work. And then that's multi-year, so we'll continue with that next year as well.
Okay. So the only last thing for me is science not on the SIP plan. Why is that?
That's a good question. I think the prioritization this year of having consistency with the plans, making sure that they all have an ELA and math goal, given that ELA and math is instruction that occurs at every grade level. And, if students aren't able to read proficiently or do math proficiently, they really struggle with science. So the sense of belonging piece is important. It's that learning environment piece. And we know that as students feel a greater sense of belonging and they feel more engaged in school or more successful academically. I'm not directly answering your question in terms of why science was left off, but I think that's something that we should reconsider and have further conversation about in terms of the structure of the SIP plans.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. This was really good to see this kind of high level, and thank you for filling for James. I know his insights and his ability to just drill into it is sorely missed, but you guys are nailing it. So good job.
We're no match for it.
I know. So I guess kind of to go back, you had touched on SBA no longer has data that we can then drill into, and is that something, is that from the testing agency, or is that something like, is that, how come?
The interim measures?
No, they used to give us, and I forget what it was called. Maybe Preston, you remember. What? Strand data. We used to have strand data, and that was a change that was made, I think, pre-COVID. I mean, 3-4 years ago, that districts no longer receive strand data. Part of that is to make, I think, the SBA a shorter assessment, and so students aren't taking it for weeks and weeks and weeks, but we as districts in Washington State no longer receive strand data.
Okay, so my understanding is then, because we don't have that, is that the main driver behind iReady to get that kind of progress monitoring and to get that?
It's not because of this. We had iReady prior to not receiving strand data.
Okay.
SBA can kind of be thought of as the autopsy report. So a teacher has taught throughout the entire school year, and the reality is teachers don't get the results for their current students until they have left for the summer. And so getting the data for the students, that their cohort of students that they currently have, there's no instructional measures that a teacher can take in order to help support individual students based on scores. So iReady allows us to have data throughout the entire year, to have those benchmark measures, so that when there is a student that's not meeting benchmark, teachers are aware of it right away, have the ability to do interventions, to progress monitor, and then do that benchmark again in the middle of the year, see how they're doing, and then, because if the intervention's not working, we need to know that that progress isn't being made.
Right, and what, in terms of, it's a lot of data, constant, right? So how, I appreciate very much. I'd like to think that the consolidation and systematizing of SIPs and things like that has actually taken a load off of what had to be generated individually in each building. Are you able to do any of that stuff with the iReady to be able to kind of support teachers in the building so that they're not having to sift through everything and kind of, basically harness the power of your data collection and analysis to support the teachers in the classroom?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. I think, that is the role of our principals in terms of their work at their respective buildings with their staff, and what our teachers do in their professional learning communities as they meet together and review data. But you'll see on our district improvement plan that one of the things we are looking at this year is just, do we have the necessary platform where if I'm a classroom teacher at Swiftwater Elementary, I can access data easily and readily at my fingertips, so I can go in and I can look at Dibble's data, I can look at iReady, Smarter Balance, attendance, at the high school level, on time for graduation, grades, that kind of thing. We have, that information is available, but it's not necessarily easily accessible. So we're going to review that and determine what do we have, what's in place, what's working, and what platforms or resources might be available to make that more easily accessible for our teaching staff.
Jennifer, could I add just a point? I think one of the largest things that we've seen in the state, a change, is that lack of strand data from the state. And so I feel very fortunate. I was asked to participate with the Path Forward cohort, and I think I sent you that information. But there is a small group that was asked to help develop the statewide literacy plan. There's a representative from the governor's office, University of Washington, one from WEA, one from some group I don't know, and then myself. I've been asked to participate. It will be a year-long process. And one thing I really want to thank our parents in Peninsula is that I feel like I can go and advocate at a state level as we learn. We will be part of a cohort with other states as they develop their literacy, but part of our assessment should give data that is actionable. So having strand data, having specific data for our families, easy to understand, access to our staff, and then being able to dial it down and have actionable next steps, next tier 2, like what do you do if this? And so that is my understanding and what I will be advocating for at the state level as we go forward this year. But that's the part of us taking iReady data and all the data sources that we have in order to piecemeal something that used to be existing. What has never, probably ever, I'm going to look at Lisa. I might be wrong here. I'm wrong often, all the time. I know, here's my question. Have we ever had, here's the data, the state assessment data, and then here's what you do, and here are the interventions that are best practices, research-based, and listed. So really, that would be a cohesive assessment model so that all staff, but also all school districts. I'm thinking we have a very, very complex school district. If you're a small rural school district and you have multiple, kids, multiple languages, all of those pieces, how do you navigate through that and do that with fidelity on behalf of children? So I just wanted to add that I just appreciate. And David, to your point, if science is important and we want to put that in there, that is something that we can put on a sticky note and we can add that and then have a conversation, because I bet James could do that like so fast. Or Chris when he's back. They're both gone on purpose tonight.
Thanks, I appreciate that too, and that further explanation about your work on that committee. I think I'm really grateful for you for stepping up to do that. Yeah. It just kind of last sort of just a curiosity question. One of the things is I think a lot of us have seen as parents when our kids are learning skills, right? It doesn't go like this, right? It goes like this, and then it seems level, and then sometimes it feels like this, right? It's very asymmetric and whatnot. So I'm curious, like David, I look at this like, it's almost like every other year when you look at the secondary assessment about how it goes up and then down and up, and it's across the board. Is there any, ability to kind of look at that longitudinally and see, is that a cohort thing, or is that just something, like the 9th grade tends to dip a little bit, right? That just seems such a strange pattern.
Yeah, we definitely have access to the longitudinal data, and we can do that. I think, again, missing James tonight, I'm sure he's kind of analyzed that, and he would have been able to answer David's question about 10th grade readily also, just based on the nature of the data, the nature of the test at that grade level, and test difficulty. So we can certainly, talk with James when he's back and get you a response for that. I don't want to make assumptions about that, but to your question, we can look at data over time longitudinally.
Okay, and then is there any ability, this isn't related to data at all, it says jumping ahead to the acceleration opportunities. Is there an avenue or a forum in which parents and students can have discussions about sort of balancing pros and cons of acceleration opportunities in high school, i.e. AP versus college in the high school versus Running Start, and how to weigh those things, because it's a complex calculus.
Dan Gregory has walked up to the podium.
He knew I was going to ask him that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for asking that question. And I think Director Butler, her question probably stems from a presentation we made at a parent district council last year. We put together a chart recently and shared it with high school principals, and they adapted it to their buildings. And there definitely are pros and cons and risks and rewards from each of those options. And one thing parent district council talked to us about is making that more public. So we need to work with our building administrators and our website designers and find a way to get that in front of people, especially prior to registration time, so we can do that. The other reason I popped up here was when we talk about 10th grade SBA, James and I have had discussions about this. Let me start by saying we need to do better. We always need to do better, and we shall always be looking to improve. What James shared with me is we are seeing some decline in participation in 10th grade SBA statewide. And part of that, if you recall, there's really 3 parts of graduation requirements. There's the high school and beyond plan, there's the 24 credits, and then there used to be only Smarter Balanced Assessment, and you had to pass that Smarter Balanced Assessment.
I may get the number wrong, so I'm going to give you a range. There are like 8 or 9 pathways now to meet that last one. Smarter Balanced is one of those. SAT or ACT is one. Passing a college level class in high school, like our college in the high school, anything that gets college in the high school math or college in the high school English credit is a pathway. Hitting a designated mark on an ASVAB score is a pathway. And taking a series, I'm not sure, but I think it might be 2 full credits in a CTE pathway also checks that third box. So SBA was really around that college ready and a strong emphasis on that. As we've started to see college and career ready, those additional pathways have been developed as well. And students come to learn that, parents come to learn that, counselors know that, and so that variety of pathways, we believe that's the cause that has pulled away from participation in SBA.
Need an asterisk.
Yeah, it does.
I say that, and again, that's not an excuse. We still need to be very intentional about our instruction in English and math. And science, David.
Thank you.
I think it takes a village to replace James, so I'm also going to try to speak on his behalf. If you remember about a year ago at this time, James and Chris were up here talking about how they were trying to convert the strategic plan into a data dashboard. And if you look in the academic excellence section of the strategic plan, reading and math are called out, but science is not. So that was the reason why that then went into the dashboard and then went into the SIP plans for this year. So.
Question about the 10th grade piece. I just wanted to tie into that a bit. These are the students who were sophomores last year who took this test. That's their data, correct?
Yes.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, not everyone has to take it. So if you've taken the SAT, for example, you could opt out of taking the SBA.
Yes, we try to get them all to take it. It's strongly encouraged. We might even use the word required because we do want to get as many scores as possible. But as word gets out, they know there are other pathways. So it is required. We want to push it as required, but there is an awareness of those various pathways. But for students who are accelerated, you know,
Yeah,
if they have dental appointments or things like that, I guess the best way to phrase it is to say we used to be really gung-ho and fired up about getting the makeups done, and perhaps there's less sense of urgency around that with additional pathways.
I'm going to put our students on the spot here. If you feel comfortable answering, do you remember taking the SBA? So some of you would have taken them last year, some of you would have taken them 2 years ago.
I took it in sophomore year, and I was told it was required. I had no choice about it.
Well, 2 years ago, maybe it was. We don't know.
Yeah.
And actually, last year I did take a science SBA. So that was something else we did. It wasn't like a long one. It was maybe like, it was like an hour and a half test maybe. in all.
Separate from the math and the ELA?
Yes. So in sophomore year I took math and ELA. And then junior year last year I took the science SBA.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How about the rest of you? Anyone want to answer? You don't have to.
I also took the SBA. We were told I was told it was required also. The language arts and math, and then also the science one was also required. Especially the science one, math and English were all required in high school in order to be able to graduate.
Okay.
Kind of the same thing as Alec, but in my sophomore year, and we took it, I think in the middle near end of the year, I might have been, and then after we finished the math and reading part, science.
Okay.
So we took the science part, and it was a while after though, so I didn't.
Okay.
They did it during homeroom, I think it was, so I think it was really short. But they didn't put too much of an emphasis on how important it was, like they did the math and reading, and we'd sit, they'd be like, try your hardest. On the science, they were just like, answer the questions.
Okay.
And finish the test.
I believe on our state data, we have one test that shows we have a 1% rate or so. It's because nobody took it, correct?
Yeah.
And is that the science?
Yeah.
I do remember them saying about the science test that it does not matter what score you get, as long as you take it, you can graduate. like you just have to take. You don't have to get like a certain score. That's what I've been told. That's what I've been told.
I'm not sure who's talking. I don't think I like that answer.
What's up?
Okay. Yeah. You don't have to give detail. I'm just curious if you took it, you remember, or.
I remember taking the math and English one. I honestly don't remember taking the science one
okay.
if we did.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll maybe take it this year since I'm a junior.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the same with Alec. I took the science one last year, which everyone said it wasn't really didn't really go towards anything. And then like my sophomore year, I took the ELA and math one.
Well, it goes to data that we keep on our website and compare to the state average. So, thank you. I look at this and it's really concerning just because of the dips. And I wonder if the dips that we see here, is there a way that we can compare it to what we're seeing with competencies and meeting standards in the classroom? Because I know these tests can be a point in time, so it's how a student performs on one day, and they're supposed to be aligned to the same standards that we're teaching in these classes. Is there any kind of correlation to students performing poorly or not as well in this cohort day to day in a regular class, or is this just a blip on a test? And try. We can say we don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think again, I don't want to make assumptions, but I think if, as our teachers are doing summative and formative assessments of students, that data you would think would align because those would be based on standards, right. And the SBA is measuring that content knowledge. So I would assume that there would be a correlation.
Okay.
That's,
sure.
I'm going to dance that I could try, so.
Sounds good.
It's a little more difficult at secondary. However, at 10th grade, there are what are called the interim block assessments. And the interim block assessments we just talked about no longer breaking things down by strand. Well, the interim block assessments take particular standards and they provide an online assessment for students that can be done periodically throughout the year. We've had some various discussions about that. I was looking over some school improvement plans today. What you're going to see when you see the school improvement plans is just an initial snapshot at the start of the year, but we have had some discussions about how we might implement the use of those interim block assessments throughout the year to give us a better read on how students' performance is in alignment with various standards.
Okay.
So there are some tools out there that we've begun to explore, and we need to just take the next step and start to implement.
Great. Chuck, Lori?
It's two questions. What's the reason again for not testing grade 9? Is that's just the state just has never tested grade 9? Okay, and then Jennifer, someone mentioned this already, but the math, the grade 10 math scores are distressing. I mean, can't think of another way to put it, and I just feel obligated to mention that. Is that typical with what is being seen across the board in other districts throughout the state?
Yeah, we need James for that.
Okay.
I don't want to misspeak. I know in conversations with him, there are some trends across the state and regionally, but I don't want to answer your question incorrectly. So we can get that information from him though and share it with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
I don't. I'll be interested to see the SIP plans when they come forward.
Yeah.
So last thing for you, John, I mean, it's basically a general conversation, or comment. It's last year during the SIP discussions, I remember saying more than once that if our kids can't read, they're not going to do well in math or science or any of those other grades if they can't read. Okay, so it's not whether, to your point, it's not whether I think science is important. Okay, during COVID, OSPI did not allow us to have local control. Okay, so we had to adhere to OSPI. Okay, during COVID, so OSPI requires that we report out on math, reading, and science. So all I asked is that why are we not reporting out on our SIP plans? I appreciate your comment about the strategic plan and what our vision was on that, but OSPI requires reports. If you go to the OSPI webpage and look at data, SEL isn't in there, even though it's important. science is in there. So that's all I was asking last year, and I was pretty clear. Why is not science in our SIP plans? But if they can't read, I agree with you 100%. They're not going to be able to do well in math. But to Lori's point, I think that transition from middle school to high school, in my 10 years on the board, we've always seen that sort of dip because it's tougher math.
Yeah.
But I think that's also that cohort that really struggled during COVID. So I'm not.
True.
So I'm linking the reading to the math. So that's why I think that's so distressing.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm asking about science, not
Yeah.
that it's not in the strategic plan.
Yeah. No, I think to John's point, it's not, but that is something we can, like Superintendent Barr said, put a post-it and go back and have further
I
discussion.
will always advocate for science as a biologist.
I thought you might, yes.
Do we have any questions from the students on the data that you saw?
Just a quick thing. Was there any kind of reason behind the 43% increase in graduation at Henderson, or was that just kind of like a big surprise?
You haven't met James, but he's not here. He's our data person, our data guy. So I know he would be able to give a better answer. I know that there was, they did some great work last year with some credit retrieval, and Dan went away, but he might be able to speak to this too. But they did some credit retrieval camps. They made use of some of the waivers that are available for students this past couple of years. So I think some of those things, the additional credit retrieval opportunities, they ran a camp, I think it was during spring break and midwinter break, in an effort to really get students to where they needed to be from a credit perspective. So I think that helped. Good question.
Yeah, excellent. All right, any other questions? Thank you. Well done. Thanks for stepping in for James. I know those are big shoes, especially presenting data. Okay, item 6.2 is our monthly budget update with Ashley Murphy, our CFO.
Okay, after a data-driven presentation, now we get to look at numbers. So, follow up with good or something good with something even better.
Right.
Okay, but I'm not going to bore you long with all the details because I spoke to it last month, but August's data is continuously changing. So because we're a modified accrual school district, the data you're looking at right now technically is 19 days out of date. Okay, so we did a mid-month payroll and a mid-month accounts payable accrual, which goes back and hits August. So next month, when I'm reporting out on the budget status, you'll see a revised August report at that time. But for the time being, what we're looking at here on our first slide is our projected revenues. Our revenues aren't expected to change in any area except for, if you look at that neon green semicircle, federal revenues. So you can see that we've only claimed about 71.81% or receded about 71.81% of our federal revenues. Normally you would think, okay, we're after August 31st, so why isn't it 100%? Federal grants have a 2-month grace period after a year end in order to do final grant claims to retrieve those dollars from the federal government. So as we work through finalizing our programs like summer school, which are heavily grant funded, we go through, do the proper accruals through payroll to push it back into August. Once that's done, then we can make the claims. So you will see that revenue piece adjust next month before I present. The next slide has to do with our overall expenditures. So you can still see right now, prior to any of our accruals, we're at 7.83%. Our accruals back to August will surpass the federal revenues we are expecting. So I do expect for the 7.8 to decrease, not increase, for our year-end percentages. So this is basically our trend line. Ultimately, what we tend to look for is to make sure that we're following the same up and down pattern throughout all of the months to ensure that we don't have super large variance in any specific month. Now, again, we will not be ending where the blue line ends. That's just trend data. System can't pick up the number of accruals that we have, seeing as how the vast majority of our accruals are unbudgeted. This breaks out into more detail our overall revenues and expenditures that we were seeing at this point in all reality for the vast majority of the year, being that this is an August 31st report. The only thing it's not going to be including is our accruals back on the expense side and some of our federal claims. This breaks it down into a different object area so that you can see salaries for certificated, salaries for classified, benefits, and it breaks down where we're receiving all of our revenues through state and local and federal government. And then the last piece, you're looking at our general ed program, or what we call our O1 program. By program code to see dollars out the door in each one of those programs and whether or not it was a favorable variance. So basically dollars on the table left from budget, or we spent more than originally budgeted in those programs. So that's all I have for this August update, seeing as how our data is continually changing for last school year. Do you guys have any questions? Okay.
Any questions from the students? I know Superintendent Barr had a brief discussion with them right before this meeting, kind of went over the numbers and how schools are funded.
Perfect.
So,
I love that.
yeah. Any questions from you guys? You missed the board or the budget presentation, but I think that would be valuable to go back and watch all of the different budgets.
It's really fun. It's a great presentation, not boring at all.
Just fast forward to the ASB part. I think you'll be interested in that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, item 7 is old business. We have no old business tonight, so we'll move on to item 8.1 under new business. This is the annual approval of the 6-year capital facilities plan. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the 6-year capital facilities plan?
I'll move to approve the plan. Sorry, I couldn't find my button.
I'll second it.
Okay. It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Lori. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. The 6-year capital facilities plan has been approved. Item 8.2 is policy revision. First reading of policy 2020, course design, selection, and adoption of instructional material. This is a policy that's been in existence for a long time. Usually when we're just updating a policy, we don't go through the first read and discussion, but because WASDA model policy is significantly different, we're adopting something that looks very different than what we had before, even though it is the model policy or aligns very similarly to that. So we decided to put it on for first read so we can open up the floor for discussion. So I think we'll probably have some questions. John, Natalie, if you wanted to come back up, maybe just to be prepared to answer any questions. We will start with that. Anyone, any questions? You want to just go ahead and kick off?
Aye, again.
No.
No, he said, yeah. So thank you for bringing this now. I think it is just the right timing for everything. I think when I was reading through this, I was checking sort of the WASDA model and then thinking that's a great starting point. But I think given a lot of the interest, our strategic plan, and a lot of the interest we have within the strategic plan of community engagement, I think one of the things I'd like to encourage us to do is consider how we can be more explicit and where we call out not only who is in charge of what aspects, but reaffirm the commitment to our community being able to be involved in the process in that, and not just the not the IAC anymore, the IMC. So could you help me understand a little bit, because there's the course design and then there's the IMC, the instructional material. So it calls out specifically that the opportunity for, what page was it again? I'll refer to this page so we're all looking at the same thing. I want to say it's on page, sorry, oh, there we go, page 2. So within the course design, superintendent or designee, bullet 1, regular review is fine. Bullet 2, provide an involvement of community representatives and staff members at appropriate times. Should this live in here or in the procedure? Or can you just talk a little bit about how we can make that a little more explicit and help us understand a little bit more how our community can be involved?
Yeah, I think both for the, so there's the, like you pointed out, Jennifer, there's the IMC piece, so the Instructional Materials Committee. And it's not spelled out in the policy, but the procedure will get into more detail in terms of team committee membership. So, for example, as we look at a model procedure, it would include likelihood teachers from each level, administrators from each level. We would have parent representation, preferably a parent who's not also an educator, but a parent who has a student in the district. We would like to have a board member on this committee also. So we'd get into that more and spell that out in the procedures. In terms of the course design, if we were, take for example, adding a course at the high school level that, and Natalie can chime in on this, she was much more involved in our current process, but if we were adding a course that needed a whole new set of instructional materials, that would still run through the IMC, so there would still be broad stakeholder participation in that respect. And the IMC also is essentially the body that's approving recommended curriculum adoptions to the board. It wouldn't take away from the adoption group. When we go through an adoption, that process of having multiple teacher and stakeholder and parent input in that process, that would still take place for any adoption. And then that adoption committee would recommend to the IMC their recommended program. I don't know if that makes sense or answers your question, but Natalie can piggyback.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece to separate. So when we go through, just like we all went through together, the science adoptions, that process of having the group that comes together of teachers from the various schools that are represented, that teach the content, they work together. They have a process that they go through that's led by teaching and learning that says, this is the process you need to follow to start piloting, to even before that see that there is a need. We usually have surveys for parents and students and teachers within that first stage of that process. We have a very detailed process for going through an adoption and pilot process. So the IMCs, their role is to ensure that we followed that process, that we have all the stakeholder input, that this is the decision of the recommended decision, and that we followed those steps and processes. That is not, this doesn't detail what that adoption process is that the teaching and learning helps happen with the teachers groups.
So Natalie, if I'm a parent and I'm really interested in, let's say a math adoption, right? And I have an elementary child. Can you talk me through, like, what does that look like if the district is going to adopt math curriculum?
So I can speak to the way that we have previously done it. We're a new department and looking to do things in a different way based on input. And so we haven't gone through a new adoption yet, so I can't speak to what it would be done in the future. I can speak to what it was done for science, for example, though. So for science, we met with teachers that taught those chem, phys, and bio classes and identified a need to replace really antiquated old materials that we could no longer even get from a publisher. The first step of that process is to send a survey out to parents. It's like a Google form that would be sent out to parents, to teachers, and to students about their experience in those content areas. about the materials, about the type of instruction, because as we adopt new curriculum materials, sometimes it changes that, like you saw, that there was more project-based, and so students were working on projects rather than a different model. So we get survey from parents and from teachers and from students about that experience. And then as we work through that pilot process, we create structures where teachers are then communicating with their class and with their students that are involved in that pilot process. So we would engage the teacher in that two-way communication with the teacher or with the school and the families, so they can provide input because they're the ones that are piloting and working through that. Once the adoption committee recommends a specific curriculum, then, and prior to us bringing it to the school board, then we have those opportunities for public comment, and that is spelled out. And so in years previous, that's been Zoom meetings. We've also always posted the content as well as the timelines to our district website. At that point, the vendor typically gives us a generic login where people can log in, see the curriculum in its entirety, and then we're on that Zoom. We offer 2 to 3 different opportunities for families to jump on and ask questions and about the specific curriculum. So that's how we've previously done it. But that's not part of IAC or IMC. That's part of the adoption work before it comes to IMC. I know, I'm sorry.
I need a picture.
You need a flow chart. You need a flow chart.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's a little, I hate to compare this, but it's feeling a little reminiscent of permitting or filling it out. And I don't want us to go there, so let's get a nice picture for clarity. Because I mean, but in all seriousness, this is a big deal. I think this is something that we all care a lot about, and it's really actually an exciting thing to be a part of. And I think, in our experience with the Literacy Task Force, our parents are a tremendous resource. They know a lot. They don't even necessarily have to be, in the education field. If they, have a child who has, and they're invested and they're coming in and volunteering in classrooms, right? So I just hope that in clarifying and maybe making this picture, we can not only show where parents can engage, but also make sure that that's publicly known. So we can really cast a big net to get the best we can for our kids. David, I know you're waiting.
I know. His light's already on. What? Me?
Okay. Yeah. So I wasn't real thrilled with the previous one, but so I had a couple comments. On page 2, instructional materials committee, it's very one sentence, doesn't really tell me anything, doesn't reference anything, doesn't reference policy, doesn't reference procedure or anything. Natalie and I participated in a 2-hour slugfest last year at the WASDA Legislative Conference with our colleagues across the state, where we argued about, like Jennifer said, the importance of families and the education of their children. And there just isn't, in my opinion, anything in this that references families or parents, and I think there should be. The previous instructional assessment committee really only required one parent to be on that committee, where I always argued that we should have had half a dozen parents on that, so that we could have, because sometimes you just get one particular parent and they can sway the whole thing. Mm-hmm. We need to have a little bit more of a diverse group of parents to be on there to hear more than one side. So I definitely would like to see something in this. This doesn't, it says this is a series, but it doesn't say this is we're not looking at a policy or a procedure. It's just like the cover page of the whole series 2000. So I would like to see something on the IMC section, page 2, that thoroughly addresses the importance of parents or families or whatever, families, in the selection of the curriculum. Then on page 3, it says at the top, they lined it out, I don't know who did that, the board is legally responsible for the selection of all core instructional materials used in the district. And it was changed to the primary objective and selecting instructional, yada, yada. But they took out the fact that the board is responsible for selection. But then that's totally watered down in that paragraph. That sort of takes away the board's importance of selection of curriculum. But then if you scroll down to page 4, contradiction in page 4, it says the board is responsible for the adoption of all core materials used in the district. But they line that out on page 3, and I don't know why, but that's one of our premier jobs, is selecting curriculum. And then lastly, says that the superintendent will establish procedures for core material, alternate core intervention materials, and supplemental materials. And I've said my concern in the past over this to Kristen privately, to the board, publicly, that yes, we select a curriculum that's taught in the class, it's approved, whether it's an old one or new one, we select as a board, we approve a curriculum. The teacher in the classroom is supposed to teach that curriculum, and then the teacher has supplemental materials that they can teach. But how does a parent know what those supplemental materials are that the teachers are teaching in the classroom? How do we know that there's not something being taught in the classroom supplementally or temporarily supplemental, that's actually used in here, that a parent might otherwise opt their child out of if they'd known that that was going to be taught in that class? So I'd like to see that addressed a little bit more, if that, those are some of my concerns.
Okay, thank you. I think some of those things, David, are maybe addressed more thoroughly in the procedure. There's a lengthy procedure that I don't think was linked,
Okay,
just the
and
policies.
And that's what I'm saying, that's not
Right.
in this. So
Right.
thank you for that. That's what I'm saying, that's
Yeah.
not. Right.
It's not,
I know.
but
Well,
there is, you know, in the policy, the model procedure, there's information around the makeup of the committee and, you know, terms. So you might have, I forget what it says, maybe a 3-year term and a selection process, and both for teachers, for administrators, for parents, and so on and so forth. In respect to why, I'm not 100% sure why the strikeouts are the way they are. I think it was struck out, and then, you know, the new text is the WASDA model policy, but as you alluded to, it does still say on the last page, the board is responsible for the adoption of all core materials used in the district. I think that was just done to align it with the WASDA model policy, and,
Okay.
and the flow is kind of,
So I guess the only thing that I would say then, is it possible, since this is the first reading, to have that procedure you just referenced added to the reference in there? Or is that against the WASDA model policy to do that?
You mean to amend the language and just put that the board is responsible for core instruction?
No. He just mentioned that the procedure for the IMC outlines all that, but that's
Yeah.
not referenced in this page.
so you're asking, reference it in the page.
Is it possible for us to add that as a reference to this, or does that go against the WASDA model policy?
It's a WASDA model procedure as well, most.
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
So at the next reading, or prior to, you could also include the procedure.
Of course.
It just wouldn't be acted upon by the board.
Right.
But it could be certainly discussed in new business.
Yeah, we can provide that to you tomorrow. We have the procedure and its model after the WASDA model procedure, so absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I just had 2 points of clarification. Well, first of all, now you know why James and Chris didn't come tonight.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to point out that it's Series 2000, but it is Policy 2020. So that number is included at the top there. Well, just for point of clarification. And then I think a lot of this is simply just moving around of whole sections, like that where you're asking about the board being responsible is crossed out, but then it's added. I think that whole section was moved lower, so it's, you know, because there's huge chunks that are just gone and then they reappear.
The word policy.
I know. Thanks.
Thank you both.
Thanks
For your time in the hot seat tonight, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, item 9 on the agenda is superintendent's report.
All right. I just want to welcome our students. It's so nice to see you. And you can test me on your names, all right? So, I may fail. I have quite a few things. I just wanted to, I'm really proud of our students. We opened our doors at the beginning of September, and I just have to say, the excitement, the staff were excited, our open houses. In fact, I have attended so many open houses, and they're so exciting because the families are there, the children are there, there's multiple generations there, and really our doors are open. I've had an opportunity last night to be with PSEF, and I just wanted to say they are strategically planning their foundation information, and that was really great work, and it's amazing how aligned it is to our own strategic plan for PSD. Today was our very first principal professional development, and I wanted the board and the public to know that our principal professional development is being led by the Principals Association for the state, AWSP. Dr. Scott Seaman is doing that work, and it is 3 hours every month, and we get all of our administrators together, but it's really about leadership. And we are creating a template for the state. There is a huge turnover that we know, both of principals and superintendents. This is a national issue. And so in order to retain our best leaders, we really need to grow them as leaders so that they feel confident and competent and that they can meet the needs of students. And so Dr. Seaman and myself have brainstormed that we are putting together a template because there is a churn, many new superintendents, just as there are board members, that we want to set a template that is best practice so that principals can grow in whatever school district they are. So we anticipate that we are going to present and this is the very first time any districts has ever used this morning. So pretty excited about that. We are looking forward to our survey. So maybe we're excited, maybe we're not. We'll have to hear back from the principals if it was a good. Middle school athletics has started or is in the process of starting in academics. I just want to encourage any substitute teacher out there or someone that has a certificate that would like to come and work for us, and that is classified, bus drivers, staff, any of our teaching staff, but our doors are open. Right? And we are looking forward to engaging in our community. It could be 1 day a month. It could be every day. It could be all day. So last year we really did a shout out, or maybe it was 2 years ago. I can't remember. 2 years ago. Thank you, Carol. When we were seeing a lot of sickness and we did not want to close our doors. But I just want to encourage, it's wonderful to engage in our community. For information, and I know the board knows this, but we had physicians that were coming in and substituting, we had engineers that were, and just the quality people that come in and share their information with our students as a substitute teacher or substitute para, any of that, or volunteers. I know that there's a lot of parent volunteer organizations, so I'm just encouraging that. Right now, and thank you, students, we have water polo, soccer, tennis, volleyball, football, and swimming. Is that correct? High school? Anything else that I've left out? I went through my schedule. What? Probably not. I don't know, is lacrosse going on or is that all year? No, not right now? Okay. Just after thinking about the SIP plans, I know that the BLTs and the principals have spent a lot of time coming up with their action plans. I certainly don't want us to glibly say, well, we should just add something, right? I am a huge, passionate fan of anything science. However, I think that we should be thoughtful in our SIP planning. And if we want to add like an addendum with data this year, but I would not want to put, because this is new for our staff. They're going to be coming forward with you with the SIP plans. And they're also doing a 6-week cycle inquiry, so they're having actionable events. And so I want to pull back on what I said a little bit to be honorable with the BLTs and the building leadership team, and encourage us to think if we do want to amend the strategic plan as we go forward, that after we see our SIP plans this year, that would be a great time. So just a recommendation to be thoughtful to people. I want to thank Henderson Bay. You know what? Per capita, you guys rocked it. Is that not clear? I mean, math. So I would like to offer 5 dozen donuts that I will deliver to Henderson Bay. I think that you guys deserve it. And if that's okay, what do you think? Students there? Is that all right? You good with that? Okay. So I'm going to bring 5 dozen donuts over. Really proud of our students. And lastly, hold me accountable. How many donuts is that? A little math. Oh, there you go. All right. I just want to reiterate what some of the students said. You know, early in our fall on September 6th, we worked with WIAA for the fall sports season, coaches and students, and we had some parent volunteers that came. And from all 3 of our PSD high schools, they were invited to Sportsman Summit with WIAA, where we shared core beliefs and values for the Peninsula School District. And student voice, they were given the opportunity to speak about their views of our program and to reflect on how they can foster a culture of sportsmanship between our schools. And I know that we all know that sportsmanship is not just the responsibility of the athletes, but a responsibility, moreover, of the staff, our volunteers, families, and fans too. Our students really need the support of the adults around us to model best practices and to encourage them on and off the field. I really want to have a shout out to both teams that played hard. Everyone that I've heard that the football was played hard. However, I do want to say that the incidents at this year's Fishbowl game has placed doubt in the minds of many and has created undue stress for many people. As the superintendent, I do want to assure you of our commitment to keeping our schools and facilities safe. We are continuing to investigate the incidents, and ongoing conversations about safety are being had. I just needed to make that statement. I know the students that were there, you heard my language loud and clear, that I have faith in students. And what we saw on Friday, we saw a lot of great students. And I just want to shout out, which has not been mentioned, NJROTC was amazing. We had amazing athletes out there on the field. We had amazing adults in the stands and all around. And we had the dance team and that cohesive work with the food bowl and the cheer squads doing that together. So I think that we have to really focus on the positive. We have amazing kids in this school district, and whether the athletes, scholars, academics, we have amazing families, and we can always be better. And there's a commitment to being better. So I want to thank all of our staff and our families that were at all the events and all the open houses, and encourage you to continue to come out and to continue to engage with us. We can always be better, but as adults, I always feel that moral obligation to be the best role model. And I'm not always perfect, I know that, but I always strive to be perfect. So I just love having students there, and know that your eyes are on us and you're watching us, and we need to be the best that we can. So with that, I'm done.
Okay, we will move on to comments from the board. Who wants to start? Chuck, we haven't heard from you much tonight. You want to kick it off?
Sure.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. So throughout the summer, I was driving by the schools and saw tall grass grounds. And so I did a little asking around, and I see Patrick has already left. But one of the things we had to cut last year was some of our maintenance numbers. And we cut as far away from the classrooms. I realize that. And I know we even tried to hire some summer help, and just there wasn't anybody out there to do it. So our buildings started looking poorly. And I've been through a lot of budget cuts before, and it always seems to be maintenance that gets cut, and then it doesn't get backfilled in time. So I just want to put that out there, that we need to remember that it's really going to save us a lot in the long run to put more into the maintenance, taking care of our facilities. So just wanted to say that. I also wanted to say, you're right, I didn't say much tonight. But what I've learned is that if I sit back, the answers will come. And so I knew David and Jennifer would take care of questions. And with everything that's happened last week, the football game and stuff like that, I've also learned to use patience. There will be more information forthcoming. We'll get all the answers. I've seen too many people with knee-jerk reactions who have jumped in and taken action too soon before all the answers were there. So I just want us to have patience when we deal with concerns.
We go down the line? Just real quick, I'm not trying to call you out, but I do think I'm concerned a little bit about, I don't believe we did cut maintenance. Because I think that was something, yeah, I know between the two of us, we were watching that like a hawk. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know the grass was
The grass
growing.
itself may not have been cut, but the budget was not.
Okay. 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 That was maybe my misunderstanding then. I know he was saying that he only had so many people. I think he had 5 grounds people to do 17 schools.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But it is a good segue to the importance of the continued conversations that Preston and Patrick and people are having with PennMet and with other parks providers who are in the business of grounds and things like that to look for partnerships, which I know you're doing. But I don't know exactly where you are in that, but I know it's happening. So anyway, that was not one of my comments. I just.
Thank you. Thank you for straightening that.
But we do need seasonal workers, so I
Yeah.
think we need to do a better job at publicizing that. So like, if you guys wanna work outside next summer, we've got a job for you.
Well, and we have some amazing community partners. I know I've participated a lot with Harbor Covenant, who goes around at least twice a year to, I don't know, they might hit every single school, and that's amazing. I mean, they get out there with the chainsaws and they've got their, dump loading trailers, and we're out there. I've had my kids out there, and we're doing all of that cleanup work before the start of school. And yeah, it's a big undertaking, and it's pretty impressive. And Patrick, that's been probably 3 or 4 years, maybe even more, that they've been doing that. So we supplement where we can, because it's a huge job, 17 sites. Anyway, but I guess the only other things I'd like to talk about is just thanking our educators, thanking our staff, thanking everybody for the start of school. It's only, 10 weeks away, but it feels like you're kind of starting from zero, and that inertia of starting up again is such a big lift. And I know, at least in my house, there's no tired like the first couple weeks of school tired. So I just want to thank them all for making it such a wonderful experience. The smiles on kids' faces, we're pretty lucky when I feel like the majority of our kids are excited to return. That's really just speaks volumes. So thank you for that. On the middle school sports note, and kind of you got me thinking about the leadership training with the principals. this is the first time I witnessed kind of the how many kids came out. And from talking with folks, this was potentially a record year for the amount of kids that came out to participate in middle school sports, which is great. What wasn't great was going to pick up my daughter and seeing tears and seeing that middle school were having to cut kids, and upwards of, my understanding on girls volleyball as an example, over 60, 70 kids were trying out for 24 spots. And it just is a little heartbreaking because it's like, do we have to start this now? So I'm wondering if there's a way maybe to get creative about keeping those opportunities for all of those kids that don't necessarily make the travel squad to still have intramurals, even better to still have opportunities to intermix with other schools. I don't know. I think we can. It hurts to know that there were that many kids that wanted to participate that were essentially told no. So anyway, just a thought.
I just like to jump in and give our students a shout out. It's just before the city, we were talking reassurance and ideas, and they were talking about exactly that.
Really? Ooh. Awesome. Fantastic. So you must have heard it too. I mean, it was so heartbreaking to see those tears, and knowing too, as an athlete in middle school, that's when, we're very fortunate in this community that a lot of kids, parents can support the club teams, the travel squads, writing those checks, but there's a lot that can't. And so middle school's their first chance. And so from an equity side, like that, I would really love us to figure out how we can amend that. And then from a sports side, you are cutting who could be your next gold medalist, because in my view, it's all a game of chance until they get older, and you never know. As my track coach used to say, you can train all your life, but somebody may come up, put out their cigarette, and beat you in jeans, and you don't know if you've cut them. So let's just try to figure out ways to keep all of our kids engaged and have opportunities. I'd love to see more of them not get less.
Jennifer, I think that needs to be a follow-up conversation, because I know that intramurals is one thing, but also there are sports. That's why we ended up in my previous district adding sixth grade cross country, because you can take as many as you can fit on a
and that's
bus.
why track and cross country are so wonderful, because they are the no-cut sports. So just two other quick things for those paying attention to capital facilities funding. We recently, the Wakayakam McCleary 2.0 Supreme Court decision came down, right before school or right at the beginning? Essentially reaffirming, so this was a lawsuit that was essentially looking for the state to include capital projects construction in the definition of basic education, and therefore provide more funding. So it wasn't, it wasn't entirely local responsibility. That, I shouldn't say local, I should say shared, because that was what actually came out of that lawsuit, was reaffirming the status quo, that it is going to continue to be a shared responsibility. But what that then, what that means is capital projects is local ballot initiatives, 60% supermajority, and that state part of the shared cost only kicks in after bonds and levies are passed. So I was watching that pretty quickly. At the last WASDA, I got to meet the superintendent of Wakayakam and hear kind of the logic and the backstory of what was going on in that. It was a fascinating journey I'm sure they are on, and for a lot of small districts that was a very challenging decision, but it's the way our state has been and will continue to run. And the last thing, CPAC, the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, it was pretty nice to see applications closed on Friday, and so I think we're in the process now of looking through those and reviewing those, and hopefully within the next month be able to appoint some community members to be an advisory committee to look at special education, to look at parent education series, which I think are really going to be fantastic, helping all of our families with students in special education just become educated on the system, on their rights, on responsibilities, on all of these things that can be so overwhelming. So I'm really excited about that. and appreciate Jana and everyone else who's supported as we kind of moved to, it's a little more bureaucratic, but ultimately I appreciate that. I think it's more transparent. It's more accountable. We put it out multiple times to the community. If you're interested, please apply. And so I was happy to see our community respond. So that's it.
Like everybody else, I've been really excited to see all the happiness in the school district going around. And, you know, it's to turn right on Reed Road and see this big yellow thing down the street, and that I'm going to have to brake for, you know, but it's a joy to see the school buses, because, you know, school's back in, and, you know, the kids their summer's over. But, you know, I talked to all my neighbor kids, and they were all excited about going back to school, so I was happy to hear that. You know, I get to talk to parents almost every day and ask them how their kids are enjoying school, and they're all saying that they're really enjoying it. Obviously, it's only a couple weeks in. Had the pleasure to go to the Partners in Learning kickoff, week and a half ago at Roy Anderson Field, and they got the school board up there, and we were having to do little jigs and dances and role play, and Alex did a great job with his cohort doing the MC duties, and it was just a lot of fun. I appreciate the community businesses to come and support our school district. Hopefully we continue that post-COVID. I know there used to be a lot more before, so I look forward to getting our business community more involved. But that was a lot of fun. And then I was also at the Fishbowl on Friday, so very exciting evening. I'm just going to leave it at that. But just happy to see school is going well, and all the photos that are on Facebook from everybody's pages, and these little, every night I'm going to send a picture from something, and so watching these people post their kids' Facebook challenges.
It's the 10-day senior challenge.
I know, but it's fun. It's just all that fun stuff. I just really enjoy with the start of school, so I'm happy to see that. So, thank you.
All right, well, first I just want to say what a great job you guys did tonight. I mean, your reports, everything was just really impressive. So thank you so much. It's a treat having students back in our meetings, because it's just a great perspective and reminds us all why we're here in the first place. So thank you guys so much. First day of school, same. I had the chance to go to several buildings on the first day, and it was really fun, especially going out to KPMS. Got a little tour of that beautiful facility and got to see Kopachuk at open house night. So snuck in there too, and just fun to go and just see the same joy in a different place, you know, repeated all around the district. And I know we all were out in buildings, so that was fun. As was mentioned, I also got the chance to be at the Sportsmanship Summit, and just great beginning of some great and really important work went on there, and I know a lot of you guys were in attendance. So a long way to go there. I'd want to give credit to Alec and Cassius, the ASB presidents from the two high schools have done a phenomenal job thus far of working so hard to, you know, bring some joint community and cohesiveness, and you guys did a great job hosting the back to school, that event, and also being involved with the Sportsmanship Summit. And so really want to give credit to the work that you're doing and that you continue to do. Just a little, you'll be so surprised to know, I'm going to tell you a little story about the Fishbowl from 1979. My husband, some of you have heard me mention this before, my husband grew up here, and so in the year of 1979, it was the first year he started out at Peninsula High School, because there was only one high school. This may be more story for you guys as well, before anyone was alive who's currently in high school. So that year, they took when they opened Gig Harbor High School, they took all the students except they left all the seniors at Peninsula. And many of you may already know this, but if you don't. So my husband and his brother was older, so his brother was a senior, my husband was a sophomore that year, which meant that my husband was at Gig Harbor High School and his brother played for Peninsula in the very first fishbowl, and their picture was on the cover of the Gateway because they were in the same family playing each other. And so my husband would like me to tell you all that they lost 48-0 that year, the Gig Harbor did, because they had no seniors on the team. And I believe Peninsula was also either defending state champions or they had gotten second in state or something the year before that. So that was I bring that up just because it's a storied and really cool rivalry and part of the history of the town. And for many, many years, and I know a lot of you will remember this, the Fishermen's Club had a dinner, like a salmon bake in the gym or in the commons there before and then everyone would go out together to the field. And it's just always been a really cool event and something that everyone looks forward to. So I was not able to be here on Friday. I was out of town for work. But it sounds like, and that by all accounts, it was a fantastic football game. Just a come from behind victory and such, with some other, not all parts of it were great. But I just wanted to acknowledge, as has been said as well, just that some of the students, I think, for the most part, are fantastic, and students' behavior almost always reflects leadership, and so therein lies a challenge to us all. Anyway, what happened there? A lot of what happened after the game, I just will say, was sad and is being taken very seriously and being addressed. I say this as a commitment to you guys because you guys are the students, and that's the reason we play the game. So that's all I have to say about that. Fishbowl is a great tradition and may continue, and the food bowl, that was all just super impressive. So congrats to you all.
I'll just add that I think I speak for all of us when I say what an honor it is to sit up here and represent this community. And we have 9,000 childhoods in our hands, at least the educational aspect, but there's so much more that goes with it. And that's something that is not only an honor, but an awesome responsibility. And it's something that I know we all feel very personally connected to. And sometimes we all celebrate together, and sometimes we face some really hard things together. And I realize that some of the history here is significant and long and painful, whether we're talking about what has happened, in the last week, or we're talking about something systemic or curriculum or programs. And it is an awesome responsibility and honor that we have to represent you in that. And someone said to me recently that it seems like you are in a position to do something and make a change, and you just don't, or it takes too long. And I understand that it takes a lot of time to change a culture. It takes a lot of time to build a culture. It takes a lot of time to change a culture. And we are an aviation family, so there's a phrase that my husband taught me when I was helping him learn how to fly, that when your plane is out of control, the first thing you do is freeze a stick. So this is kind of an expression that I use oftentimes. Freeze a stick. You just have to stop for a minute and make sure that you're doing everything the right way. And I appreciate that you're doing that. I know this board feels very strongly about staying in our lane, and I don't mean that to any other way other than it's our job to make sure that we have policies that support this district, that we have procedures that allow you to do your job, that we keep this district financially solvent. We do adopt curriculum, but we set some goals and we set a vision for this district. And the vision that we have is outlined in our strategic plan. We want every child to be empowered and inspired. We want everyone to be safe. We want everyone to belong. But we also have very high expectations and standards with people who work here. So I appreciate that we're able to hold you accountable to that, and that you do such a brilliant job. And it takes a long time to learn it. It's not easy, but it's important to do it right. So I want to thank you for that. And then lastly, I just want to end on something super positive that hasn't been mentioned yet, but we had Airport Day. We partnered with the county this year, and it was fantastic. So I wanted to send a special shout out to Joy Giovannini, who represented the school district there and brought some incredible fun STEM activities for our students, our kids, other kids, all students to participate in. Our JROTC program, again, showed up as with volunteers and really led the event. It was fantastic. It was so fun to see. So many of you, I saw you with your families and your kids. I was the designated greeter as an airport commissioner, so it was fun to see everyone come through the gates. And the Kopachuk bus was awesome. Thank you for providing a bus for kids on a Saturday to go do something fun. I want to thank Executive Dameyer for coming out. Robin Denson was there to support. We had Greg Copeland out there as our MC. Superintendent Barr was out there welcoming everyone and working in the STEM activities. More to come on how we're going to incorporate aviation certainly into our CTE program. And I might want to say that we're going to build a plane at some point. So with our students will build an airplane that someone is going to fly. So not sure when it's coming, but it's coming. And lastly, I just want to let everyone know that David and I will be participating in the Legislative Assembly this weekend. So most of the positions are pretty neutral, but we are going to work very hard. I think David's going to be representing us in trying to overturn that weighted vote. So with that, I'm not going to adjourn. The board is going to take a 5-minute break, and then we will break for an executive session to discuss, review the performance of a staff member. No action will be taken during this meeting. We anticipate the session will last 30 minutes. We'll say up to an hour. At which time we will reconvene to adjourn the meeting. But the rest of you are dismissed, unless you want to stay for us to come back in to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, students, for coming. Awesome. Our next board meeting will be Tuesday, October 3rd here at Swiftwater. Yeah, I did.